The alert comes at 3 a.m. Emergency broadcast system. Your phone screams. Every phone on your street screams. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. You look outside and see your neighbors loading their cars. Headlights cutting through the darkness. Engines starting. Everyone knows exactly what to do. They've seen it in every disaster movie, every news report, every emergency drill. Get out, evacuate, run. And here's what makes this moment so perfectly, fatally predictable. 99% of the population already knows their answer. Highway, interstate, main routes out of the city. They're going to drive until they reach safety that doesn't exist. They're going to join the largest, slowest-moving death trap in human history. Not because they're stupid, because they're predictable. And predictability in a crisis isn't just dangerous. It's designed to kill you. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 evacuation routes everyone will take, and why every single one is a trap. Why do humans evacuate? It's not a conscious decision. It's evolutionary programming carved into your brain by millions of years of survival pressure. When threat activates, the limbic system overrides rational thought, fight or flight. And when the threat is bigger than you can fight, the answer is always flight. Run from the predator. Run from the fire. Run from the flood. Get distance between yourself and the danger. That instinct kept your ancestors alive on the savannah. It's going to get you killed in a modern crisis. Here's the problem with instinct in a networked society. You're not the only one running. Everyone around you has the same programming, the same panic response, the same evacuation impulse firing at the exact same moment. 3 million people in a metropolitan area, all making the identical decision within the same 60-minute window. Run, get out, take the highway. That's not survival strategy. That's herd behavior. And herd behavior in a crisis is suicide. The predictability is what makes it fatal. When humans are scared, they don't innovate. They follow patterns, established routes, familiar paths, the ways they've driven 1,000 times before. Interstate highways, main arterial roads, bridge crossings, mountain passes. Every city in America has between 3 and 5 major evacuation routes. That's it. 3 to 5 roads designed to handle normal daily traffic, maybe 50,000 vehicles spread across 24 hours. Now run the math. 3 million people trying to evacuate simultaneously. Even if only half of them have vehicles, that's 750,000 cars trying to access 3 routes in 1 hour. Each route can handle maybe 6,000 vehicles per hour under ideal conditions. You're looking at a 125-to-1 oversaturation. That's not traffic. That's a parking lot. And here's what makes it even worse. The people who plan for disasters know this. Government agencies have run the models. Military strategists have calculated the choke points. Hostile actors have mapped the kill zones. They know exactly where the masses will run because the masses are predictable. You think you're evacuating to safety. You're actually moving into a pre-mapped trap that's been waiting for this exact scenario. Geographic inevitability does the rest. You can't add new highways during the crisis. You can't build bridges while people are evacuating. The infrastructure is fixed, the routes are known, and everyone's going to use them at once. They've been planning for this. You haven't. The first route 99% will take is the most obvious and the most fatal. Picture this. It's hour 1 of the crisis. The evacuation order just dropped. You see Interstate 95, Highway 101, whatever major artery runs through your city. 6 lanes designed for speed and distance. This is the obvious choice. They're already dead. Here's why everyone makes the same decision. Highways promise speed, distance, capacity. You can drive 70 miles per hour. Interstates connect to other cities. 6 lanes can handle thousands of vehicles. All 3 promises are illusions that evaporate the instant everyone acts on them simultaneously. Let's run the numbers. A single lane of highway moves approximately 2,000 vehicles per hour under normal conditions. 6 lanes. That's 12,000 vehicles per hour total. Your metropolitan area has 3 million people. 1 million households. Half of them evacuate. That's 500,000 vehicles trying to access 3 major highway routes in the first hour. Each route needs to absorb 165,000 vehicles. Each highway can handle 12,000 per hour. You're looking at a 14-to-1 oversaturation ratio. The gridlock happens in 15 minutes. Every on-ramp becomes a bottleneck. Surface streets back up for miles. Within 30 minutes, the entire interstate system is a static parking lot. Nobody's moving 70 miles per hour. Nobody's moving at all. Now you're sitting in your car. Engine running for air conditioning or heat. Half tank of gas. That buys you 6 to 8 hours of idling before the engine dies. No food beyond a granola bar, 1 bottle of water, no bathroom. You're surrounded by thousands of other vehicles in the exact same situation, all burning their last fuel, all waiting for movement that isn't coming. The waited-out strategy fails because gridlock doesn't clear. More vehicles keep feeding in from behind. You can't reverse on a 6-lane highway. You're locked in position. Weather becomes a factor. Summer heat or winter cold in a metal box with no climate control once fuel runs out. Medical emergencies happen with no ambulance coming. 72 hours. That's the survival timeline for highway evacuation gridlock. Dehydration, exposure, medical emergencies, violence from desperate people. And here's the darkest element. You're a stationary target. Every hostile actor knows exactly where you are. You can't maneuver. You can't hide. You can't defend 6 lanes of trapped vehicles. While they're dying on the interstate, you're positioned in the vacuum they created. But highways aren't the only trap. The people who think they're clever will avoid interstates. They'll take back roads, bridges, mountain passes. And that's exactly what makes the second death trap even more efficient. You think you're clever. You saw what happened to the interstates during past emergencies, so you're not taking the highway. You're taking back roads, alternate routes, the bridge crossings that locals know about. You think that makes you smarter than the 99%? You're not clever. You're predictable. Every city exists where it does because of geography. Rivers, mountains, coastlines. These features create natural barriers that require specific crossing points.
Manhattan has 21 bridges and tunnels connecting it to the mainland. San Francisco has 7 major crossings. Pittsburgh has 446 bridges total, but only 8 handle the majority of traffic. Your city has between 5 and 15 critical choke points, where geography forces all traffic through narrow corridors. The capacity problem is worse than highways. A bridge has 2 access points. The approach on one side, the approach on the other.
That's it. A major bridge moves 4,000 vehicles per hour during normal commute. When 100,000 vehicles converge, because everyone had the same clever idea to avoid the interstate, you're looking at a 25-to-1 oversaturation at a single point with 0 alternate routing. The failure happens faster than highways. On the interstate, gridlock spreads slowly. On a bridge approach, gridlock is instant and absolute. The bridge surface becomes a trapped corridor. A single accident, a single breakdown blocks the entire span. Nobody can go around. Nobody can reverse. You're on an elevated structure with water on both sides and vehicles packed bumper to bumper. Here's what smart evacuees never calculate. They all think alike. The person who takes the bridge instead of the highway believes they're making a unique strategic choice. They're not. Thousands made the same calculation. Everyone avoiding the obvious route converges on the same alternatives. The Brooklyn Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Potomac crossings. These become parking lots, except you're trapped on a structure with 0 cover and no exit options. The defensive scenario is nightmare geometry. On a highway, you can pull onto the shoulder and move on foot. On a bridge, you're channeled in one direction on an elevated structure. Military strategists call this terrain of death. You can't maneuver. You can't take cover. If hostile actors want to control an evacuation route, bridges are the easiest targets. And authorities know this. Bridge closures are standard protocol in quarantine scenarios. You're not just stuck. You're in a location that becomes a deliberate control point. The timeline is faster than highway deaths. 24 to 48 hours. Exposure on elevated structures is more severe. Wind, sun, no shade. The psychological pressure of being trapped over water accelerates panic and violence. While smart evacuees are bottled up on the Golden Gate Bridge, you're positioned in the city they abandoned. So the masses take highways. The smart ones take bridges. Where do the really prepared people go? The ones with government emergency plans and designated rally points. That's the third death trap, and it's the most cynical one yet. You trust the system? You've seen the evacuation route signs, the green and white markers pointing the way. You know your city has an emergency plan. Designated rally points where authorities will provide shelter, food, medical care. You're not panicking. You're following the plan. The system is the trap. Government evacuation plans exist in every major city. Routes are marked, rally points are designated, stadiums, fairgrounds, convention centers, schools. The plans assume 30 to 40% compliance, resources, space, personnel. All calculated for 30 to 40% of the population following the order. Reality delivers 80% or higher. When crisis is real, trust in authority spikes. People want someone to tell them what to do. The evacuation signs become psychological anchors. Follow the route. Go to the rally point. The government will take care of you. That assumption multiplies the crowd by 2 or 3 times beyond capacity. Rally points become concentration zones. A stadium designed for 50,000 receives 150,000 evacuees in 6 hours. No food for that number. No water distribution at that scale. No medical staff beyond a handful. No sanitation beyond stadium bathrooms that fail immediately. The promises that drew you there don't materialize because they never existed at the required scale. Hurricane Katrina, the Superdome, 30,000 people with no power, no working toilets, no food distribution. That was one disaster. Scale that nationally, and the failure is systematic. Here's the darker element. Once you enter a rally point, departure may become restricted. Quarantine protocols, martial law, disease control. The authorities who couldn't provide resources suddenly have personnel for access control. You're not in a shelter. You're in a controlled population zone. The timing trap makes it permanent. By the time you realize supplies aren't coming, the organization doesn't exist. All exit routes are blocked by incoming crowds, still believing the system works. You can't leave. The facility is surrounded by thousands trying to get in. Whether incompetence or control doesn't matter. The result is identical. You're trapped with tens of thousands, zero infrastructure, indefinite timeline. While they're in the FEMA shelter with 50,000 others and zero supplies, you're positioned in the vacuum they created. At this point, the truly independent thinkers say, forget the roads, forget the government, I'm going off-grid. The wilderness, the cabin, the woods where no one else will go. That's where the fourth death trap is waiting, because Mother Nature doesn't care about your survival fantasies. You've watched the shows. Survival instructors teaching you to build shelters, start fires with friction, purify water with charcoal. You've got camping gear, a truck, maybe a cabin or rural land bought for this exact scenario. You're not running to city exits. You're going off-grid, into the wilderness where masses won't follow. You'll be dead in 2 weeks. The wilderness fantasy is mythology. Movies, YouTube, prepper culture. They sell the same dream. Escape to nature. Live off the land. Hunt and forage your way to survival. It feels independent, self-reliant, separated from chaos. Reality is that 99.9% of people have zero wilderness survival skills, and the 0.1% who do know better than to try. Here's the caloric math that kills you. An adult needs 2,000 calories per day to maintain function. Hunting and foraging requires 2,000 to 3,000 calories expended to acquire maybe 1,500 calories of food if you're skilled and lucky. You're running a deficit. Your body burns fat reserves for a week, maybe 10 days. Then you're consuming muscle tissue. Cognitive function declines, physical capability drops, death follows. Even experienced survival instructors set a 30-day maximum for unsupported wilderness survival. That's with training, experience, ideal conditions, and knowledge that rescue is coming. You have none of those. Exposure kills faster than starvation. Hypothermia in cold, hyperthermia in heat. Weather without infrastructure means constant temperature regulation battle. A mild injury becomes fatal. Sprained ankle, infected cut, dental abscess. No antibiotics, no surgery, no pain management. Minor medical issues become death sentences. Water is the fastest killer. Streams carry parasites, bacteria, viruses. Giardia causes dysentery. Dysentery causes dehydration. Dehydration kills in 72 hours. Boiling requires fuel, containers, time. Filtration requires equipment. You can't drink enough uncontaminated water to survive without infrastructure. The predictability trap you never considered. Your remote cabin, your secret property. That undiscovered wilderness area, every other person with the same fantasy knows about it. Property owners in rural areas defend their land. You're not a survivor. You're an intruder, threatening limited resources. The locals know the terrain. They're armed. They're established. You're the outsider. Timeline to death: 7 to 14 days from exposure, injury, contaminated water, or caloric deficit. The wilderness doesn't care about your camping equipment or survival fantasy. While they're dying of dysentery in their remote cabin, you're positioned in the vacuum they created. So maybe you're thinking bigger. Resources, connections, a plane ticket. You're not driving, you're flying out. Airports, train stations, transit hubs. That's the fifth death trap, and it's the fastest way to guarantee you never leave the city alive. You think money buys escape. You've got resources, connections, a credit card with a high limit. You're not sitting in traffic with the masses. You're getting a plane ticket, a train ticket, leaving the city entirely. Different state, different region, somewhere the crisis isn't happening. Money becomes worthless in the first hour. The elite assumption is that financial resources translate to mobility during crisis. Buy the ticket, get to the airport, fly out. It works during normal disruptions. Flight delays, weather cancellations. Throw money at the problem. But real crisis doesn't care about purchasing power. It cares about system capacity and infrastructure failure. September 11th, 2001. Every flight in American airspace was grounded within hours, not delayed. Grounded. The system shut down completely. When crisis hits at national level, transportation networks don't slow down, they stop. Airports close, train service halts. The ticket you bought becomes worthless paper, and you're stranded at a convergence point with thousands who had the same idea. Major airport during evacuation. Normal daily capacity is 100,000 passengers across hundreds of flights. Crisis hits. 200,000 people converge in 6 hours. Trying to get on flights that aren't leaving. Terminal becomes trapped crowd in enclosed space. No food once supplies run out. No water once taps stop. No power if grid fails. No security once overwhelmed staff abandons posts. Airports are built for flow. People arriving, passing through, boarding, departing. When flights stop but people keep arriving, flow becomes congestion. Congestion becomes crowding. Crowding becomes hostile environment where panic, violence, and disease spread accelerate. You're trapped within hours. Roads to the airport gridlocked behind you. Terminal exits blocked by incoming crowds, still believing flights will resume. You abandoned your home, your supplies, your defensible position for a ticket that got you into an enclosed space with thousands of desperate people and zero functioning systems. Even if one flight leaves, where does it go? Other cities experiencing the same crisis. Other airports shut down. You're trading one failed position for another. Except now, you're in a location you don't know, with no resources and no plan. Private jets don't solve this. Airspace restrictions shut down all civilian flights during national emergency. Fuel availability fails. Even if you get airborne, destination airports won't accept landing. System dependency is vulnerability, and money can't buy infrastructure that doesn't exist. Timeline: trapped within hours, death within days. Crowding accelerates dehydration, disease, violence. Enclosed terminals become pressure cookers. While they're trampling each other at the airport terminal, you're positioned in the vacuum they created. 5 routes, 5 death traps. Highways, bridges, rally points, wilderness, terminals. Every obvious exit mapped, calculated, converted into a killing field. Not by conspiracy, by math, geography, human predictability. Now let me show you what happens when all 5 traps activate simultaneously. Hour 3 of the crisis. All 5 death traps are active simultaneously. Interstates are parking lots stretching 50 miles. Bridge approaches gridlocked. Stadium rally points overflowing with crowds expecting organization, finding chaos. Wilderness cabins occupied by multiple desperate groups. Airport terminals packed with people watching empty departure boards. This is total system collapse. The traps don't activate sequentially. They trigger together. When highways fail, people reroute to bridges. When bridges fail, they head to rally points. When rally points fail, they flee to wilderness or airports. Each failure pushes more people into remaining options, accelerating collapse. The cascade compounds until nothing moves. Total urban stasis. Nothing enters the city. Nothing leaves. The same infrastructure that trapped evacuees prevents supply deliveries. Food trucks can't reach stores. Medical shipments can't reach hospitals. Fuel tankers can't reach stations. The evacuation created a blockade, and here's what nobody calculates. While millions are trapped in death zones consuming their last resources, the city infrastructure stands empty. Buildings, storage facilities, industrial zones, abandoned by people who fled. That's the vacuum. You can't save them. You can't rescue people from 5 simultaneous traps spread across hundreds of square miles. You can only not join them. Strategic positioning means accepting that the stampede chose their fate, and you chose differently. Staying isn't permanent safety. It's better odds. Better than highways, better than bridges, better than rally points, better than wilderness, better than terminals. Not because staying is risk-free, because evacuation is guaranteed failure when everyone evacuates simultaneously. Long-term survival requires sustainable systems. The vacuum becomes your operational space. Abandoned city infrastructure becomes your resource base. But that's month 2, month 6. Right now, in hour 3, the advantage is simple. You're not trapped. You're not consuming your last resources in a metal box on a highway. You're positioned. So what do you do with this information? Right now, before anything happens, you have a choice. You can be part of the stampede, or you can map the death traps and position yourself to own the emptiness they create. Here's your decision. Right now, today, before any emergency happens, you choose. You can be part of the herd that stampedes when crisis hits. Run to the highways with everyone else. Burn your last tank of gas sitting in gridlock on Interstate 95. Die on a bridge approach waiting for movement that never comes. Stand in a stadium with 150,000 people and 0 supplies. Freeze or starve in the wilderness with no survival skills. Get trampled at an airport terminal watching empty departure boards. Join the 99% who wait until the emergency broadcast activates, until the panic is real, and then make desperate decisions based on instinct instead of analysis. Or you can be part of the 1% who map the traps now. Open a map of your city right now, Identify the major interstate routes. Count them. 3, maybe 5. Those are death traps 1 and 2. Find the bridge crossings, the tunnels, the mountain passes. Mark them. Identify the official evacuation rally points, stadiums, fairgrounds, convention centers. Note their locations. Map the wilderness areas people think are secret. Find the airports, train stations, major transit hubs. Drive these routes, physical reconnaissance. See the choke points with your own eyes. Count the lanes. Observe the capacity. Calculate what happens when everyone uses them simultaneously. When the alert comes, you'll have a plan, not evacuation. Positioning. While they're running, you're staying. While they're trapped in 5 simultaneous death traps consuming their last resources, you're positioned in the vacuum they created. You have weeks to do this reconnaissance now. During the crisis, you'll have minutes. The difference between those 2 timelines is the work you do today. Here's what I know with absolute certainty. 99% of people who hear this will do nothing. They'll think it's interesting. They'll agree with the logic. And then they'll wait until the crisis hits to figure out what to do. They'll join the stampede because they never mapped the alternatives. You're different. You think strategically. The question is whether you act on it. Predictability creates death traps. Analysis creates survival. Death traps mapped. Reconnaissance assignment given.